Bessem. Hi, Bessem.
Hi, how are you?
Good, and thank you for taking the time and coming. The minute I have to say, the minute I talked to him, he said, yeah, sure, come straight away, and he put it down in his agenda.
Thank you for having me.
I wish all guests are that easy.
No, thank you for having me.
Thank you, and of course, as usual, you can interact with us, and of course, we'll be talking about antiquities, ancient Egypt, modern Egypt, post-revolutionary Egypt, antiquities and tourism, anything that comes on your mind that is related. And of course, Bessem is a wealth of information on ancient Egyptian, Islamic, Coptic, and what have you, monuments and antiquities here in Egypt. And the numbers to call is 257-89407. That's the number we have in our studio straight away right now. And at 1:30, we're going to get our second direct line, 257-89623. You can listen to us online at ertu.org/1/radio-europe.asp, or you can listen to us through Nowset. Just switch to the radio channels and you'll find us there. Bessem, can I start with a difficult question?
Please do.
Okay. In all the history of ancient Egypt, of course there must have been times when it was very difficult and there was something like the civil disobedience and disruption and everything seemed out of order. Perhaps maybe there were minor revolutions. How did Egypt fare then? And do you think we're going to fare like the pharaohs did then?
People who read history are the most optimistic in the world because we've read it. And if we do a little bit of modest reading in ancient Egypt, and I'm not talking only ancient Egypt, the so-called pharaonic Egypt, and I have to say the so-called pharaonic Egypt because this is a wrong naming, by the way.
Why?
So if you would excuse me today, we're going to correct some stuff.
Oh, okay, go ahead, please do.
So the first correction is that the word pharaonic civilization, I totally disagree with all respect, of course, to our great professors. Very quickly, we have about 30 royal families, or 31.
Over three kingdoms, right?
Okay. So from family 1, they call it dynasty or dynasty, to dynasty or dynasty 18, we don't have any king who bore the title pharaoh. None. So more than half your ancient history are not named pharaohs. Why are we calling it the pharaonic civilization?
But wasn't that the dynasty or that era that saw the pyramids and the like?
Including Khufu, Khafra, Menkaura, Djoser, or Djeser as it's correctly named, Snefru, Pepi, Teti, you name it, Narmer, Mina.
So they were just called kings?
They were called kings, Lord of the Two Lands, he is the son of Ra, loads of titles, none of which was Per-A. Per is hieroglyphic for house, home, right? Great. So Per-A, the great house, the palace. Per-A changed into Fer-A. And Fer-A became Pharaoh, or Pharaoh. So I'm wondering to myself, if until now, until the 18th dynasty, we don't have any king who's got this title, why are we insisting to call it pharaonic and to call it pharaonic civilization? You want to call it ancient Egyptian civilization, fine, the most ancient civilizations. But answering your question is that, yeah, Egypt passed through loads, and that's why I say, even though the last 2 years is not the most optimistic, if you like, dealing with what happened in the streets and this, still we didn't reach, I would say, 20 to 25% of what actually sometimes happened in ancient Egypt. Take, for example, we don't have to here to mention the ancient Egyptians. Let's talk about the Fatimid era. The Fatimid era, as you know, the Fatimids were Shiites from Morocco, originally from Yemen, and they were in deep love with Egypt. They loved their time in Egypt. And there is nothing more lovable that you can get as a feeling. You don't think that the guy, Al-Mu'izz, who asked a capital to be built for him, Jawhar the Sicilian, who built him Cairo. Cairo, by the way, was called at the beginning Al-Mansuriyah. Cairo was not called Cairo at the beginning. To start with, it was called Al-Mansuriyah, from Mansur.
I thought Cairo was named after Jawhar al-Suqali.
Al-Qahir.
You are controversial, it's nothing else. I've read that in books, I remember.
Yeah, you know. No, but see, good thing about history that it can absorb all of this.
Yeah, sure.
Theorizing theorizing is a beautiful thing, but the best thing is if your theory turns into fact. And for fact, planet Mars was called Al-Qahir. And you know the Fatimids were very good in studying planets and movement of stars. And at that time, when the capital was very ready to be inaugurated, they were studying planet Mars.
So at that time, Al Fustat was the capital of Egypt?
Al Fustat was the first Islamic capital, and more capitals came afterwards, like Al-Askar and Al-Qata'i, Al-Askar, Ahmad ibn Tulun, of course. All these were capitals.
On the skirmishes of Cairo now?
Okay, you can like Ahmad ibn Tulun is like, you want to talk about the Masjid of Ahmad ibn Tulun, the area around, not far away.
Isn't that Cairo?
Citadel came
Cairo
before.
proper?
Cairo proper in the days of Al-Mu'izz, you're talking about Shari' Al-Mu'izz.
Just Shari' Al-Mu'izz?
It was very, very small. It was 1,300 times something meters. So you are talking a very small city, because it was only built for Al-Mu'izz and his people. It was not for yourself and I. It was not for the commoners. And that's why there was a palace in this street that was built. What an amazing street, Al-Mu'izz street.
Where is that palace now?
Actually, there were two, one on the left and one on the right, and that's why this area was called between the two palaces.
Bin al-Qasrain?
Bin al-Qasrain.
Yeah, wow.
And that's the origin of the name.
Okay, where did these palaces go?
Palaces were sometimes destroyed, sometimes, you remember, there were great deeds of turmoil. Well, both actually. You get by man, you get by environment, you get by... We suffered also some earth movements around Egypt.
Any pictures of them, any depictions of them anywhere?
You don't.
Do we have any stories of them? How come
stories, yes, because historians wrote things. You got people like Al-Maqrizi and others who actually were very into detail and some stuff. And people, you're talking about controversy. Al-Maqrizi is a controversial character, even though we're taking him as a source, as a main source of our history. But let me take you back to the Fatimid era, and there was a ruler in the Fatimid dynasty called Al-Mustansir. And during his time, the bad things happened to Egypt, and it was called Al-Shidda Al-Mustansiriyya. It was hard times for the Egyptians. There was no food. People ate animals. People ate cats and dogs. People ate everything, to the point that people started to think about eating people.
Was it something like a drought that hit Egypt or something?
That's right. And the people who wanted to keep the seeds, the wheat and all of this, and they hid it. Some people hid that. Maybe that was black market at that time. When the king knew that this is happening in the country, he actually called his two ministers and he said, I'm going to hang you, both of you. See how he works? I'm going to hang you if these seeds are not out. Get down, open those shops, get the guys, the merchants, to keep the seeds out, and this business of hiding the seeds should stop.
And what happened?
And it happened. And they went down and the seeds were out and it passed. So if this whole story, what I'm trying to get at here is that this story is telling us about Egypt suffering, people studying medicine and pharmacies and pharmacology and all of that. And then something happened to this kingdom, and just like any civilization around the world, it's like a pyramid. You reach the top and then you go down to the bottom. It's like up and down, up and down. If you were looking at the Tulunides, let's not talk about the Fatimids, we'll talk about the Tulunides, Ahmad ibn Tulun. This is the most richest dynasty of all. When you read about how rich the Tulunide family was and how rich Egypt was.
How long did they rule Egypt?
And they did receive
post-revolution. Nobody seems to care. These mosques are under the patronage of what? The Ministry of Waqfs?
Okay.
And the heritage, right?
The beautiful discussion between the Waqf and between the Minister of Archaeology, now it is a Ministry of Monuments. And
who's in charge of these mosques?
This is the question that we need to ask those two, because every time something happens, this authority will this authority will come. I remind you, there is a mosque not far away from Sultan Hassan again called Qani Bey, not Qaib Bey, not the famous Qaib Bey, Qani Bey. The member, the pulpit. In the pulpit, we're talking an amazing masterpiece. I've never seen it, but the pictures shows amazing masterpiece. It's stolen. How can you steal a member
They took
How
the
can you-
inlaid pearls and because I
The whole
remember
thing.
Gamal and Ghitani came on TV a year and a half
They
back.
take they lathe and they take this, and if it's made out of ivory or whatever, or
And
ebony
mother
or
of pearl and
mother
all
of
that.
pearl and this. But for the whole minbar to be stolen, that to me is an amazing incident.
It's an inside job.
And the imam of a neighboring mosque went, and he told me he went to Naib al-Am, he went to do this and that, and but the story died.
Why?
Why is a good question.
Okay. I want to make it even easier. I'm not talking about who should be looking into who stole what. The cleanliness of the mosque.
Yes.
Who's in charge of that? Surely there's no fight over that. Who's in charge of keeping these great touristic sites, great Islamic sites clean and tourist friendly and prayer friendly and user friendly? Who's in charge of that?
You know, this question
Why would my family member say the only beautiful mosque she went to, beautiful in the sense that it was clean, that there was greenery around it, should be a mosque, Al-Hakim Ba'amrillah, because she told me, I don't know if this is correct or not, it's under the auspices or patronage of an Indian society or something like that, and Egyptians are not allowed to go anywhere near it, and that's why it's in a good state? Is this true?
Well, I'm a tour guide as well, as you know. Some years ago I took during the Cairo Film Festival, I was commissioned by a tourist agency to guide Charlize Theron.
Yep.
Egypt. So that was an amazing 4 days or something. And I took her to Al Mu'izz Street. And it was like a beautiful lady in her wedding night. The street was...
Because they knew she was coming?
But no. Nobody knew. As a matter of fact, that it was the business of, would you like to go to this place? It was like that. I want to visit a monument, so and so. And she was also very understanding lady and everything. But I took her to Al Mu'izz, and then I went inside Al Hakim, and we talked a little bit about Islam because she was interested in that as well, and loads of pictures and stuff. And that was also at night. She was very, very amused by the way how the illumination. And then we heard that people came back and they put their stuff around, and the street is not as it used to be taken care of as it used to be, and this business of the streets are not safe, and the cars came back parking because you remember that they didn't want the cars to go even through, and they put that
there was a year or a year and a half when they actually made it a closed open museum area, didn't they?
Open museum, you're talking
and
about
then
30s.
It stopped.
And then all of a sudden we heard and we saw pictures of this and that. My friends go there and they say there were parties done in front of Al Hakim, as a matter of fact, not far away from Al Hakim. There were parties and DJs, and I think it was New Year's Eve when they played, I don't know, fireworks or something like that. So
if the right precautions are taken, is there anything wrong with that in marketing these places?
You're talking to a person who is disagreeing with illuminating temples at night. So if you're talking about fireworks, yes, please.
But everybody does that. But if every single precaution is taken, why not? So you're against...
No, say this sentence again, please. Every single precaution?
Not every single precaution is taken. Okay. Point taken.
I'm sorry, but take one good example. Some years ago, we wrote in the newspapers about Abu Simbel temples.
Yeah.
Right? Now, if you attend the Sound and Light show in Abu Simbel, and they told us it's nominated to be the best in the world, and I can believe that, because I saw Sound and Light of the Acropolis. In Athens.
That's Greece.
That's Greece. And I saw the sound, and I can, and I studied by heart the Karnak one, and I love the Aswan one, the Temple of Philae one. I really do. It's romantic. It's beautifully lit. It's beautifully made. It's out of this world. And I attended the Sound and Light show of the Karnak temples with 2 people. Private Sound and Light show. Can you believe that?
Oh, wow.
That was a big wow. Now please let me tell you in 1 minute that story, because that will give you how. No matter how we criticize, no matter how we say tourism and this, and the tourists are, I don't know, afraid to come and all of that, what's happening in the streets of Cairo. This country is loved or what by everybody. This gentleman is a respectable elderly gentleman with his respectable elderly lady, and he wants to be on his own. He doesn't want to be bothered by people around him when he visits this place. He
wants to contemplate the whole spirituality of the whole place.
You see? So he asks the tourist agency that I was working with, please, I want the whole temples of Karnak, because I insist on calling it temples of Karnak, not the temple of Karnak. Okay. And he say, I want it only for me, my wife, and our Mr. Bessam. And everybody goes, we're going to hire the whole temple. How much is this? He said, I don't care.
Good.
So, of course, you can't do that in the morning while people are getting in and out, because he doesn't want people. He wants privacy.
Yeah.
So, very quickly, the agency decided to give him an idea, and he accepted it, which is, and we were in Ramadan, I remember, they are going to make him a sound alike. They are going to pay the government, and that's okay, you can do that, that's legal, and you can pay the government, and they can play you the sound alike show only for you and your wife, and with you Bessam,
at a special time designated. Yeah. What year was that?
Ooh, I want to say 7 or 8 years, something like that. 7, 8 years ago. Okay. And I remember that because we had to break our fast in front of the temple, because it was 6 o'clock and it was the same time of the breaking of the fast. Anyway, we went in, and that is the story that I want to tell you. We went into the, as you know, the hypostyle hall. The hypostyle hall in the temples of Karnak, to those who didn't visit this temple and they are listening to us now, this is what they call the greatest chamber on earth. 134 columns in one room. Hello. And it became very famous, world famous, because it was filmed in The Spy Who Loved Me, the 007 movie, the James Bond movie, and Agatha Christie, Death on the Nile, and so on and so forth.